Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the Learning Zone webinar. Thanks for joining today. This is also being recorded and we're going to post on our YouTube Microsoft channel afterwards. And I'm going to kick it off. My name is Mike Tholfsen. I work in the education team. I'm just your sort of host to intro. I'm going to be kicking it off to Ella from our Learning Zone team. So Ella, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everybody. Very excited to be here. And today, as Mike said, we're going to talk about Microsoft Learning Zone. As part of this presentation and hands-on webinar, we will tell you a little bit about what Microsoft Learning Zone is, why do you want to use it. We'll experience it as a student so you can see what is the engaging and rich experience that your students will get with Microsoft Learning Zone. You will be able to build your first lesson, edit it, refine it, and then be able to share it either through a link, a shortcode, or through our brand new Teams or LMS integration. In terms of housekeeping, notice that you have the Q&A chat that you can use to ask questions across the presentation, across the hands-on. We have a whole team of PMs here to answer your questions in line, so please feel free to participate. And the expectation is that we will go through everything in details, give you time, and you can follow along on your Learning Zone application and in your devices. So what is Microsoft Learning Zone? Microsoft Learning Zone is a relatively new but generally available application within Microsoft Education that allows you to create rich and personalized interactive lessons using AI. It uses a hybrid AI solution, so you would need a Copilot Plus PC to generate those lessons. However, everything else in Learning Zone, the editing, the sharing, the assigning, viewing insights, all of the workflow management can be done on any Windows device, and it's available to all of your students regardless of devices. So we can support the bring your own devices setting or tenants that have diverse set of devices in terms of students. And we see educators using Learning Zone for different pedagogical reasons, depending on their teaching style, their teaching preferences. So you can use those lessons for a self-paced experience, to catch up after a break, to assess knowledge at the end of the lesson, to introduce a new topic, or even as a flipped classroom experience. So you can get the student to do the knowledge acquisition in a personalized and active way before class, and then spend the class time on project-based learning, on discussion, on brainstormings, and things like that. From educators' perspective, within Microsoft Learning Zone, you can control the entire flow. So you can create a lesson in minutes using the AI. You can edit it, refine it to your needs, or you can choose out of our very large gallery of lessons built with different partners and configure and customize those lessons, and then you can share and assign it to your students in different ways. Your student play them, and then it doesn't end there. You can get rich insights back to inform your teaching and better support your students. And we'll cover all of those steps today in the hands-on webinar. From student perspective, the interactive lesson is a very rich and diverse experience, very interleaved experience. So it includes content, information that is provided in bite-sized slides, then interactive exercise that allow them to try it in real time on their own with a variety of different exercises, multiple choice questions, true, false, fill the blanks, sort, group, and match exercises. And then the student get immediate learning feedback. So it kind of supports the learning loop. They get the feedback, they can try again in a personalized flow that we'll see in a second. We did ask in the registration to this webinar to download the app. You will need the application in order to try it for yourself during the session. If you have not done that yet, You can now go to AKAMS Get LZ and download the app. It takes 1 second. Or you can go to the Microsoft Store, search for the Microsoft Learning Zone application and download it. And with that, I'm going to move it to my colleague Nevo. We'll start the demo.
Okay, hey everyone. So I'm Nevo. I'm a product manager also at the Learning Zone team on Microsoft Education. Happy to be here. Great to see everyone. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to try some of the Learning Zone features hands-on, and I'll walk you through it. I'll explain all the different features, all the different possibilities that you can bring into your class using Learning Zone. And we're going to start with the student experience. We'll experience how that works as a student. You'll see all the benefits, and afterwards, we're going to see how we can actually create that lesson, edit it, refine it, and have a learning lesson, create a lesson that you will feel confident in bringing into your class. So first thing we are going to do is experience a lesson. You should go to aka.ms/learnit. Now I'm going to do that together with you. That's just entering that address in the URL. I'll show my screen so you can see. Here we go. So just aka.ms/learnit. And what you receive when you do that is an option to open the app. Now, what we're going to see is that the learning experience for a student is available also on web, so you don't have to download the app. As a student, you can access it from any device. You don't need to have a Windows device. In this instance, because we're using teacher accounts, we're going to use the Microsoft Learning Zone app. So I'm going to open the app. I can also click here if I don't get this option. And what I will get, so give me a few thumbs up. I want to see whoever got to this experience on the Learning Zone app. If you click aka.ms/learnit, this is the lesson that you are supposed to get. Okay, I'm seeing a few hands. That's great. So this is the beginning of a lesson that a student will receive with a few couple options that you can see here as navigation that are available only for educators. But in general, this is available for students as you can see it here. Now I'm going to start running through the lesson and explain how the student would experience this. And as I said, afterwards, we'll see how we can create this. So this is the cover lesson. This is the intro, which explains, which is sort of the doorway to the interactive lesson. It explains the topic and gives me the abstract and the understanding of what I'm going to get into. Now, if I click start as a student, I will enter the lesson itself. Now, what we're seeing here, and generally when we're talking about Learning Zone, as I mentioned, we have a combination of content slide, informational bits, and interactive exercises. And usually the way that we generate the lessons and are able to create them, we have modules. So we have a couple of content slides explaining the content, making sure that the students have understanding, and afterwards assessing them, helping them recite the knowledge and actively learn it. So we're seeing here a content slide with a supporting image. If I click continue, I get another one. So this lesson is about technology in the classroom. Here specifically, we're talking about radios and their places in the classroom. We can read through that. Okay, and here I have the first exercise. This is the fill the blanks exercise to help me recite the material so far. So I'm not going to use that and try to answer that all together. I'm just choosing answers. Let's see how I did. Okay, didn't get anything right. Hope I'll get something right next time. But what I can do is I can see the solution as a student. So this already gives me a small learning loop. I can see my mistakes. I can take a minute. I can see whether I can understand anything from my mistake. And afterwards, I can see the proper solutions and see what I got wrong. If I click continue, another content slide. Okay, and here's another type of question, which is a true-false question. Now, this one's from the 1980s. Some of you might have memory of that. I particularly do not. So, less processing power than the microchip inside a modern USB charging cable. I'm going to go with true. Nice. So what you can see here is a couple of things. First of all, we have Spud, the character that is built into Learning Zone to support the learning loop, giving us both positive and reinforcing and encouraging feedback, helping students have a more positive experience throughout the lesson. And one other thing that we can see here is feedback. Now, this is something that we can build into the class as educators and supported by AI. We're going to see that in a bit, which is a small textual segment which supports my answer, whether it's true or false. I can have a small learning loop that helps me whether reinforce my knowledge or see what I did wrong and try to be better for next time. Continuing, this is a multiple choice question. What was the storage capacity of the standard 3.5-inch floppy disk? Okay, I'm on a roll. You can see another type of feedback here, another Spud, and I can move forward. Another type of exercise, which is the match question. The point is, as we said before, as Allah mentioned, to have a diverse experience and have a lot of different opportunities for learning from the student, but on the other hand, keep the experience controlled and managed by the educator, so they can build it and have confidence on what they will create later. Let's give this a go. Test my luck. 50%, not bad. Let's see what the actual solution is. Okay, moving forward. So this is already the summary slide. I can track my progress through the progress bar. This is the last slide, helping me kind of make sense of everything and draw conclusions from the lesson, focus the learning goals. Okay, now, two other features which we're also going to see later are the opportunities for customization and for having tailored lessons for the students. I'm seeing that the level of difficulty is tailored to different student types. And we have two features to support that. One is conditional slides, which we will see in a bit, allowing us to have different slides shown to students who had a harder time. And the other is the option to recite questions that we got wrong. I can return to them using the feedback that I learned and see if I learned something new, but I'm going to skip that for now. Last thing we're going to see in the student experience is the brief. There's the summary. Now, this is what I get as a student. I can go over the questions that I missed. I can also see all the questions in general, what I got right, what I got wrong, get a quick learning loop out of that, and be done with the lesson. What you've seen here is really a glimpse of how a Learning Zone lesson looks and how students experience that. Now, moving forward, I'll just share the slide again real quick. Once we have seen the lesson in action for the students, we can see how we can actually create that lesson. Now, what we're going to see in a sec is that there are two options, and Allah mentioned before, having Copilot plus PC and not having Copilot plus PC. Now, the generation of the lesson itself is done using and in support of on-device AI, which means that the generation itself and the AI capabilities, which we will see in a sec, are only available for Copilot plus PCs. But non-Copilot plus PC Windows devices can also use Learning Zone and have a variety of features there, including ready-to-learn lessons and being able to create lessons based out of that as influence, as inspiration, and bring that into class with all the features that we can show in that scenario. Let's see how that actually works. What we're going to do is show you how to create a lesson or to choose a lesson. We'll start with a lesson that is selected from the curated library. Afterwards, we'll see how we can generate one on our own. At that point, each of you should have a lesson that is ready to use and ready to edit and possibly share with your class. And afterwards, we're going to see all the possibilities of how we can assign that within Learning Zone and afterwards within Teams assignments and different other entry points to the app. And we're going to see how we can actually utilize all of that and track insights, focus our support, and learn something for our teaching loop for the next time we will practice material or the next material to come. So first of all, when we're talking about the educator experience, if you just enter Learning Zone through the desktop app, you are going to see what you're seeing here as a teacher. Now, this experience has two sides, either with a Copilot Plus PC or without a Copilot Plus PC. With a Copilot Plus PC, you are going to see the exact screen that you're seeing here, but you're not going to have any available lessons. So instead, you will see an encouraging message to create or use existing lessons, and you're going to see the Create button on top. Besides that, if you're not Copilot Plus PC users, if you have any other Windows device, you will not have the creation option, but you will have all the other options that we're going to see here. Now, if I want to get started, first, let's choose a lesson from the existing library. Now, as we mentioned before, Learning Zone has various collaborations with global partners, trusted organizations that, with the target of bringing learning into your classroom in a way that could interest students, reach their worlds, and be trusted by educators as well. So if I click Discover on the leftmost panel, I will enter the library for presenting lessons in Learning Zone. Now, what we can see here is the array of partners. You can see organizations like NASA, Figma, Minecraft Education, The Economist, WWF, and the Nobel Peace Center, which really are about creating a range of opportunities for learning and being relevant for various types of teaching and learning. So that ranges from STEM to social studies to humanities to art and design. There's really something for everyone here. And we can also see different collections and lessons. Now, collections are structured lesson ideas that can stretch out through a few lessons. Now, if I want to bring content or exercises into my classroom, but in a way that could last a semester or a couple of lessons, and not just a singular lesson, I can use the collections seen here. I want to begin. Let's choose a partner that I particularly like, which is NASA in this case, and the Discover the Universe collection. Now here, each of you can choose whatever fits their teaching or whatever sparks their interest. I've chosen this particularly, but feel free to select whichever partner you wish, whichever lesson you wish, and if you found something that you like, you can also share it here in the chat for other educators to see. I'm going to click Discover the Universe. I particularly like that one. And let's choose the lesson, Are We Alone? Now, what I can do as an educator here is I can go over the lesson. I can see its relevance to me. I can see whether I want to bring it into class, what it contains. And if I choose to actually use it in class, I click Use this lesson. Now here I have two options. I can either assign it to my learners or copy the lesson. If I assign it to my learners as is, and later we're going to see how assigning to learners actually looks like and what that means from the other side, I will be able to assign it as is using a link, using a shortcode. We're going to see all that later. If I click copy the lesson, that means I can take the lesson as a structure and use that as influence, use that as inspiration to create my own lesson. I can use the content slides, I can use the exercises, I can enhance it or change it as I see fit, changing it from originally being a partner and a library lesson into something else, which I can definitely do. So as a non-Copilot Plus PC educator, you can also create your own lessons from these structures and from these various inspirations created by experts from these organizations. At this point, I'm going to click copy this lesson. Now, I want to choose this particularly in this session because in a bit, we're going to see how we can edit a lesson, which is why it's important for us to have an editable lesson so we can play with afterwards. So I click copy the lesson. I can see that I have a copy created here, and I'm going to open it. Now, what I get is the editable mode for a lesson. Now, I suggest that both Copilot plus PC, both educators with Copilot plus PCs and the ones without go through this process, see what this can bring to the table. And once you have this display, we're going to go back to it later on after we see generation. If you go over to lessons, you will be able to see the copy right here. Now, this much is about using a lesson from the library. Now let's see how we can create a new lesson from a teaching idea, from learning resources, from whatever we want to bring into the table, and create an interactive lesson of the same type. Now, if I go to home, I will be able to create a lesson from the create option. Now, we're going to touch on the possibilities here in a bit. For now, let's use create. Now, this is the creation form for Learning Zone. And there are a couple of possibilities here. And I suggest you follow along while I do this, create your own lesson, see what you would want to bring into the classroom if you have the generation option. Now, I can either, I have a range here for how deep and how thorough I want to get in the specification for my lesson. I can, first of all, I can write the lesson description and bring in what I want to bring and the topic that I have for teaching. Now, those of you who don't have instantly a topic to bring, we can see the examples right here. And I can choose one of these. Now, here particularly, I'm going to choose inflation principles and implications. And you can see the general description that it's written, talking about what the topic is, possibly expanding about what I want to focus on within that, whether I want to use examples of which type. So there's really a lot of room to choose from on what I actually want to bring and what the lesson would eventually contain. I can choose the grade level. Here, currently it's in a US scale, but soon we're going to also support UK grades in terms of the appearance, but it's also valid for both. You can choose the number of slides, how long you want it to be, whether it's a short, compact introduction lesson that's 5 minutes at the beginning of a lesson, or whether you want something more extensive and more deep. And we can also choose the lesson balance. And now here I'm going to keep it on the middle of content and exercises. I could also choose strictly content, which is more like a PowerPoint deck, I'd say, that's more informative, or we can choose strictly exercises, which is if I want to quiz or if I want to create a lesson that's only about assessing in that respect. So let's change this to 6th grade and let's keep it on 10 slides. I want to create something shorter and I want to create something that's for the beginning of a lesson, let's say. And another thing I can do here, if I choose to, is bring in my own content. So if I have a lesson plan ready, if I have my own PDF, if I have a trusted source that I want to ground the lesson on, I can do that. And another cool feature that I'm going to use now is the vetted resource. Clicking here, I can choose a resource from the OpenStax library. In this case, let's click inflation. Let's see what it brings up. Okay, so I can choose from a variety of textbooks and subjects here. Let's go with the confusion about inflation. Selected that, clicked next. Now, what we're going to see here is an outline for the lesson, which is a preparation for how the lesson is about to be structured. I can approve that before the lesson itself, which we will see in a bit. It's just going to be basic points on how the lesson will be structured. I can take this, I can delete points. If I don't want to do the comparison, for example, I can delete that one, anything here that's not relevant for me. And I can also fine tune it and write something different. Let's say that I want to have a lesson that is more shallow. I want to only bring in the general. So yeah, discuss only the core principles. For example, and we'll see how the lesson will be rewritten to match the definitions, explanations, and introductions of ideas more fitting to what I wanted to bring to the table. Now, once I'm happy with that, I clicked generate, and I'm going to get my actual lesson. What we will see here is the same thing we've seen just a second ago for the library lessons, which is the edit mode of the lesson, which includes the content slides, it includes the exercises, and I can go over these, change and edit everything, and make sure that the lesson is fitting my needs. Now, one of the core values of Learning Zone in that respect is that it gives educators AI capabilities and AI support, but it keeps the control strictly on the educator side. So I can go over all of these. I can see that they're fitting to my ideas. I can also change the images if there's something that I dislike. For example, clicking replace. I can use stock images. Let's say that I like this image better. I can select it, change it just a little bit. Okay, here we go. And click save. And what I can also do here is choose my own image. If I have one that I brought on my own, something that I like, I can upload it here and select it. Now, let's see a few other ways to edit it. At this point, you can just go over freely and try and see what you can edit, try to change whatever you find fitting to imagine what you would bring into your classroom. If I'm in a content slide, here I can also highlight or bold different topics. So, for example, inflation is about both prices and wages. I think that's important. I can emphasize that. And if I go to exercises, I have a few interesting possibilities here. So I can either change the exercise itself. I can add options. I can add feedback. We've reviewed that earlier on so that students would see that while they practice. And I can also generate distractors, for example, and that's relevant for a few different exercises. Now, I'm not going to show you all of these. You can check them out by yourselves. Let's say I like this one. But we also have group exercises, sort, match, which will be available just soon within Learning Zone. And they will also have these both manual and AI capabilities for editing to really help to make the process easier and supported by AI while remaining in control by the educator. Okay, I saw that my lesson is done. So I'm going to click save. Now, this section is about responsible AI. We want to make sure that while the exercises are generated by the educator, they are still controlled and edited by the educator. So if we see that there's any slide that wasn't looked and wasn't reviewed, we suggest that you review it to make sure that you are good and approve of all the edits and all the suggestions. At this point, I'm going to click use anyway. Nice. I'm going to show just two more things here. If I click assign to learners, I can also add notes. Let's add good luck. I can define a deadline if there's any name change I want to make, and then I click create. Okay, now, as I have a couple of options here, and we're going to see a few more. I can either share the lesson via shortcode, or I can share a link. As we said, learners can also use Learning Zone on any web browser, so giving them this link allows them to play the lesson instantly there. And I can also share them immediately through either Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom, where I already manage my communication. And later on, Live is going to show us other possibilities on how we can also share Learning Zone where teaching and learning already occurs. Last thing I want to show you here is the reports. Let's say that I have already practiced my lesson and I want to see how my students are doing and how I can improve my teaching by that. So I can click reports on the leftmost side. Now, if you have generated a lesson and assigned it like we've just shown, you can also do that for the lesson that we've created earlier on. You will be able to see it here. You will not have any data, but you will still see this page. So you can click on it and see how that would look. At this point, I can see student grades. I can see whether any student particularly, like here, needs targeted support. Okay, these two students, Mattis and Blaze, they got lower scores. Maybe I need to talk to them. Maybe I need to see that they practice a little bit more of this material. And I can also see the exercises themselves, which help me understand if there's any specific topic that might need reinforcing or assistance, or one that I can use to generate another lesson, which will help me focus directly on those topics. Now, this is the full flow, how I go from creation or editing to assigning in class and actually seeing the results and tracking those to improve my teaching in general. Now, before we move forward, one other possibility that we have that I'm not going to demonstrate due to limited time is our ability to create a Kahoot quiz using Learning Zone. Now, as we've seen that we can create an interactive lesson, I can also use the drop-down and create a Kahoot quiz, which allows me to go through all the stages that we've seen. I can choose the topic, I can upload my own materials, I can ground it, I can see the outline, but eventually, instead of creating a Learning Zone lesson, I get a format, as you see here, of a suggestion to a fully generated Kahoot quiz, which using the Open Kahoot option, I can open in the Kahoot website straight away and bring that into my classroom for free from the Kahoot platform, which is another cool AI possibility that we allow within Learning Zone. Now, moving forward, I want to hand it over to my colleague Leif.
Cool. As Nevo is sharing your presentation in about 2 seconds, so right now we talk about all the functionality built into Learning Zone. Now, one of the biggest feedback we have around the Learning Zone application is how do we integrate this into our current LMS system? That could be your typical system that you have today, like your Canvas or Moodle, everything else, or using Teams as your kind of lightweight LMS system as well. So we have built that into the assignment application that works both in Teams inside your LMS system. It's currently in preview, so I'm just going to demo today, so you cannot try yet, but it's coming soon to a Teams near you, put it that way. So let me just share my screen here. Let me see. So there we go. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen. You can thumbs up for that. That'd be nice. So inside assignments here, we have the ability, of course, to create a new assignment. So I can create a new assignment in this case here. In this case, I will be like an English teacher here who's just been learning about a book called Project Hail Mary. If you guys have read it, it's a great book and a great movie as well, just came out. It's all about how these two characters are saving the earth. It's always good positive stuff. Anyway, so I said I have my assignment. I can choose my grading category for this thing. This might be in classwork. And we have now in the attach menu a new option for you, which is the interactive lesson. So in my case, I have 4 lessons that I created already inside Learning Zone. If I click on my interactive lesson here, we will now list all those lessons for you. So you can choose to add those things now. You can go directly to a new lesson to create a new one if you want to, or in this case, I'm just going to create one that I already have, which is about how characters tell stories. I'm going to attach here. So this is now created directly into the assignment. And as anything in assignment, you can choose to assign this directly to your students. I can do it right now. This is who is writing grades, so let's open to student experience. So, of course, one of the things you want to make it easy for students is just work on it directly and get it done. So let's just open up my student experience here. This is the assignment right here, and of course, as Nevo showed, you can have as much or little activity you have. So I'll make it a little small in this case, but this is my activity. I'm opening as a student right now directly. It is not turned in here, but if I go into the Learning Zone here and start to work through this to my flow, and it's going to be that many questions. You know, it's going to entry point, talk about Project Hail Mary. I'm going to start it. I think this is all about the Grace show uncertainty here. Time his responsibility there. Maybe it's going to be a thing there. Let me see. This actually is here. There we go. Great. I'm checking this thing. It's fantastic and amazing. But also between Grace and in story. Great. I'm going to check that as well. And then last thing, yep, I think this is great. So I'm just going through the lesson now as a student, and I'm apparently very good because everything full up. But now, what I have now as a student, I have kind of my work done. It's all built inside Teams. I don't or an assignment application, either in the LMS tool or inside Teams. When I'm done, I can close it. And it's already not turned in for that student. So we automatically turn it in into for the students going to done in the first place. So what we do right now for the grade itself is we basically are putting the completion percentage from lesson plan and make it to grade directly. So let's see how that works on the teacher side now again. So again, as a teacher, I have my assignment. As you can see, I can have people turn it in, and of course now I myself turn it in as well. For this case, we have built in the integration directly with the Learning Zone in the grading view as well. So just as we do for forms or quizzes, you can have a summary result, and that should give you all the kind of work from the students, what they've done so far. So in this case, just as never saw before, we have built in the directly now, so I can see how students doing. And of course, if I want to now, I'm perfect. We can see how each student is doing as well. So kind of great kind of interaction to see both where those assignment or exercises the students are working on, what they're struggling with, and it built directly into the flow of that particular experience as well. So it's all built in. This currently is, as I said, in preview right now. I'm working a couple more things to get the next stage, but you will see this in the next couple of weeks in your assignment tool, whether it's in Teams or whether it's inside your LMS system where you have Microsoft Education tools enabled. So, quick demonstration how it works. Just ask questions directly in the chat there. Christelle's asking about D2L. So we support any of those LMS solutions we do today with LTI integration. I don't remember actually D2L is supported directly, but that will be supported as we are embedded those into your LMS system. With that, Nevo, Ella, you want to talk it back to your part of the final up?
Yes, I'm gonna take it from here to just wrap it up. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar and were able to follow along with your own devices. If you want to share that with anyone else, this is our link to go to the Learning Zone website where you can get the download link. You can register to get more information as we get more updates and learn more about Learning Zone, the ISTISL alignment, success stories, and things like that. We also have that full list of resources available for you. As Mike said in the beginning, we will share that deck and recording, so you'll be able to get all of those support resources directly from the deck. We actually have a new Microsoft Learn course just released. If you want to go through interactive training through that or share that with your colleagues, brand new on the Microsoft Learn website. And if you want to share to learn more about the full portfolio of the Microsoft Education team, if you want to get early learnings on our products and our roadmap to inform the product development and provide feedback, Please join our Education Insider program at the AKMS Join EIP link. You'll need to acknowledge that and approve joining that program, and then you'll get notified on different events and opportunities as part of that program. And finally, I invite all of you to claim your digital badge for participating in this session and enhancing your AI skills. And with that, just in time, we'll wrap up this hands-on webinar. Thank you all for joining, and I hope it was valuable and fun for you. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.